Victor Chau,
Hello, Avi Cortez.
welcome to Move, Sweat, Discover. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
I'm just going to throw you straight into the deep end, actually.
Okay.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Victor Chau. Chinese name Chau Botman. I was born in Hong Kong, and I'm a yoga teacher. I also teach stand-up paddleboard. I've been doing yoga for over 20 plus years now, and yeah, that's really the short end of that. But then I also love, getting people upside down. That's what I do.
Yes, you certainly did that this morning. So I am now going to introduce you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So Victor Chau, yoga teacher with over 10,000 hours of yoga teaching, Pilates teacher, anti-gravity fitness instructor, stand-up paddleboard instructor, taught over 20 international yoga festivals, program director of Iris Your Escape, Hong Kong and Macau, the Fitness and Wellness Expo. You've led over 15 yoga teacher training courses in China and Hong Kong. Co-founder of the Mentorship Weekend Workshop, which is a postgraduate program for yoga teachers, and that helps build up a tight yoga community and kickstart their yoga career. Legacy Lululemon ambassador, represented Hong Kong for a number of international events. Top 10 yoga teachers by H.K. Tatler. This is my favorite one. Top 13 yoga hunks by Singapore Her World magazine. We're going to have to pause and just talk about that one.
Okay.
Top 13, sorry, not
Yes.
top 10.
Yeah.
Yoga hunks. How did that come about?
I think that was the start of the whole kind of yoga teachers being more present, more obvious on social media.
Okay.
And then so I think this magazine saw my profile. I wasn't even going to teach in Singapore, or maybe I was about to teach in Singapore.
Right.
And then so one day I saw someone sent it to me, and I was like, hey, you're on this list. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I looked at it, it was mostly, pictures of topless yoga male topless teachers on the list. So I think that's how I got there.
You've had your pin-up moment.
Yes.
I think you can retire now.
I know,
Right?
I know.
Such an impressive list of accomplishments and ventures.
Thank you.
How do you feel about that when you kind of listen back to it?
First of all, I feel a bit old. And I think that, it didn't happen just overnight.
Sure.
So it took me 14, 15 years to slowly build that up. I mean, that's like a CV, you don't do all of that at the same time. And I felt very, very fortunate, to be honest, to have all these opportunities in the past to actually do what I love and also to help people, do better in terms of health and feel better about themselves. And also, doing teacher trainings or all sorts of trainings also help people realize that they have the key, they have the power to give back to people around them, so that, it's not just my community, it's actually me helping them realize that you have your own community. Once you have this skill set and the right mindset, you can also help other people so that you could help them the way that you have been helped.
Let's go back to Victor Chau pre all of this, all that I've just said.
Yes.
Talk to me about that guy.
So
like, what was your kind of career, and what did you study?
So I did comparative literature and American studies in university, and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do after I graduated.
Like most of
people,
yeah.
And then my first job was actually to teach English in Hong Kong. And then I taught for 1 year. My contract didn't get renewed for whatever reasons. And then I landed a job with HK Magazine.
Oh.
And actually, that's how I met you.
Yes.
Because you were a page boy for another company that was like so long ago.
So I too had my pin-up moment.
Yes. So you were working for that company, and then because of my job at HK Magazine, and I think that's how I met you. And then after that, I joined a PR agency because I thought, I actually quite like public relations. I like talking, obviously. I like, being with people and to understand what I'm quite curious, or you may say quite a nosy person by nature. So I like to understand what other people are doing and how I can help them. And so I got into a PR agency, and then from there I also joined Lane Crawford for doing PR in-house.
Okay.
And that was actually a pivotal moment in my life, because after 1 year at Lane Crawford in the PR team, the company transferred me to Beijing, and that was like a very, very like a turning point to my life, because I think before Beijing, I was just some mindless, guy in the 20s and party every day. I was living in Soho, so I was like, "Do you want to come down for a drink?" "Oh yeah, I will be there in 5 minutes."
Yeah.
And then moving to Beijing, I was the head of a team, so I had more responsibility. And also culture-wise and language-wise, it was a completely different environment. And so I also met my partner there. And we kind of influenced each other in a positive way, mostly. And so I just became more a responsible person.
You grew up.
I grew up to be a man. I don't know whether I can actually say it now in this time. And anyway, and so I became more responsible. I became more mature. And that was also when I became more dedicated to yoga. I was already doing yoga before I moved to Beijing.
Okay.
But with the life in Beijing being more kind of focused and more simple, because bear in mind that Beijing is so much bigger than Hong Kong. Yeah. So it's not like you can just go bar hopping in one night. So I would just, after a drink, and then I just go home, and then I had more events to kind of look after and supervise. So I had to be kind of sober most of the time. And then in Beijing, I did a lot more yoga, and to a point where I decided to maybe I'll just take up a short teacher training in Beijing to see how I felt about, getting a teacher training certification. And I really liked it. At that time, I was already researching for a teacher training program in India. So I flew to India after that short training. And then, after 6-7 months, after I got my accreditation, and then I quit my job and became a full-time / freelance yoga teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like to kind of leave?
Actually, it was quite a smooth transition. Okay, so I had to make sure that I had enough savings and money because to leave a comfortable corporate job behind and to venture out something, into the unknown, it is daunting.
Yeah.
But then I think, being in India, in a place that is very spiritual, and I was also in a very, very rural area in India. So when I came back to Beijing, I went to my first job event. I think I went to an opening party of Gap in Wangfujing in Beijing. And I saw all these like people that kind of didn't resonate with me anymore. So I was like, I think that's it. I don't belong to this world anymore. And I like to, I would still love to PR things. Yeah. And that thing happened to be yoga. So health, helping people to, to become healthier, and then to PR myself as a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
So I'm still doing PR now, but it's just PRing different things rather than just, a $20,000 coat.
Yeah. How useful, do you lean heavily on that side of like your background?
Yes, totally. Because when I quit Lane Crawford, I had to tell my mom. So it felt like I had to come out the second time.
Yeah.
Because obviously she wasn't very impressed with my decision. So, but then Ajayi, do you have enough saving? What about money? And so I said, look, I've worked it out, sort of. But like there are skills that I've learned from my previous job at PR that will be super useful to what I do now. So, for example, I can manage a project. So every training that I teach, how to present myself in front of people, that's from my PR job.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to look at timeline. I have to look at if I organize a retreat, that's an event in itself.
Yeah.
So I have to have organizational skills, which a lot of fitness instructors and yoga teachers might lack because of. I don't blame them because they never did it before.
Yeah.
I can look after a budget. I can, communicate with press because that was my job. So if there is an interview like right now, I know how to respond to you in a genuine and authentic way, not in a PR way. And also, like you said earlier, I'm program director for Iris Your Escape. So there's a huge undertaking. I can manage the schedule. I can manage teachers. I can manage the audience, the students, all of that. I have to thank my previous job, my old boss at Lane Crawford, who allowed me to do that. And then, it's one thing led to the next, which is what I'm doing today.
Yeah. So once you left your job, you started up yoga. That was your full-time thing, hit the ground running. What were your what was your direction? What were you trying to open your own studio? Were you trying to, develop yourself as a brand?
I think I know what I'm very good at, which is teaching, which is, breaking down a somewhat complicated kind of like philosophical discussion in yoga into a more kind of approachable way so that people understand.
Yeah.
But business acumen is something that I'm not very strong with. So actually, I never really thought about opening my own studio.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable working with someone who already has a space for me to flourish, for me to do what I do best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did think about opening a space a couple of years ago. On our way here, I told you about that already. And maybe it's a good thing that it never came into reality. And so if I open in the future, I would definitely need to partner with someone who is not a yoga teacher, who doesn't think like I do, but with a business sense, who can actually manage the business, where I will be focusing on the teaching and the service or the message of the company. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned community earlier. How important is community to you?
It's everything. Yeah. But it's also changed over time.
Sure.
Because when I was younger, before yoga, my community was my drinking friends, my PR friends, my fashion friends. And when I came back from Beijing, like those friends, I kind of just started to weed them out because when I told my yoga teacher that I had quit my PR job, and the first thing she said to me in the email was like, "Congratulations, let go of anything that doesn't serve you anymore." I still remember that, in this very same day. And so those I thought were friends, I don't see them anymore. And I don't feel sorry. I don't feel upset. It's just the way life is.
Yeah.
And as far as community today, when I first came back to Hong Kong, maybe I had to prove something. Maybe I had to find clients, maybe I had to, and I became Lululemon ambassador. And so that really helped me grow a community for myself and for Lululemon as well.
Yeah.
And so I would really enjoy teaching a class with 300, 400 people and, amassing that crowd. And that made me feel proud. But I think that was, now looking back, 10 years later, that was just ego, which is something that yoga is teaching us to kind of eliminate. And now for me, community would be a small crowd, meaningful connections. I think that happens to a lot of us when you grow older. You don't need a huge number of friends. Same for my students, same for my community. But then your community is the people who made you who you are, and then it's what you share and what you know. And I think, I'm very privileged that I have different crowds, different communities, different sizes.
Yeah.
Over in my career.
Would you say that that's what motivates you?
Yep, definitely. Like I sometimes, whatever post it is, or whether they get a job with a yoga studio, or they do their first retreat. For example, Yoga Movement, they just opened. 2 of my graduates from mentorship, they got the job as 2 of the 4 yoga teachers to teach there full time. I was very proud of them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my students, they get hired to teach at Pure. Very, very, very happy for them. I never actually taught at Pure. I don't know whether actually I would get a job there. One of them actually became a teaching manager recently. So I'm really, really proud of them. Yeah.
So that was your motivation, you'd say, behind the mentoring workshops.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how that came about. And
so again, I think like once now you ask me, like coming back to Hong Kong was such a turning point, a second turning point in my life.
Yeah.
Because I became Lululemon ambassador, and then I met another Lululemon ambassador, Claudia Whitney, and then we were just having coffee one day. At that point, I was already teaching yoga, but I wasn't well known in Hong Kong as a yoga teacher. And so we were talking, and she was like the queen of yoga in Hong Kong at that point. So we were talking about, how, because for a yoga teacher to teach, you have to take a minimum of 200-hour teacher training.
Yeah.
And then you go and teach. But then what they don't teach you is how to land a job, or how to, find or create your own community, how to actually teach. It's like you go to university, but they don't teach you how to behave in a workplace. Same thing. So then, she and I came up with this idea of mentoring, creating this workshop for people who have done their 200-hour teacher training, but lack the confidence to teach. They don't have the connections to teach.
Yeah.
So then we started this together. After 1 year, she left Hong Kong, and then I continued to do that. And I continued to grow that community. And of course, I changed the course focus and contents over time, because times change, needs change as well. And they also tie into my role as program director at Iris, Your Escape. So I may be a little bit of a biased mindset. So when I hire a teacher to teach at Iris, I would consider... Are we in record? I would consider my graduates a bit more, not because of bias, but because I actually already know them.
Sure.
So, and a lot of the teachers, regular teachers at Iris, like Rebecca, Delia, and a number of them started, they took the workshop with me. And then I said, okay, I've seen you teach. I think you'll deliver a kick-ass class. Why don't you try out at Iris? I mean, some of them I never hired them back. But then a lot of them they just became a star. They became their own brand. They start to build up their own following, their own community. And I think my first gig with Iris, and I think I hired Rebecca to teach, to close the event with Inside Flow. And I actually just... I saw her shine on, it was a sunset class, so I was getting a little bit emotional. It was really hard work. And I actually just cried just seeing her teach. And I said, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must feel super rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many iterations have you had now of your mentorship program?
So I've done 6 or 7 of them now.
Yeah.
I was taking a break I couldn't do any over COVID. And I haven't actually restarted the program. So I'm really looking forward to doing it next year.
Okay. And what advice would you give to someone that's just coming into this world?
You mean like the yoga teaching world?
Like if you could go back to if you could go back to your young hunk self, someone of that kind of ilk, what would you kind of
wear less clothes? I would say do what you are really good at. Okay. And I know there is a trend in the last couple of years that the more certificates you get, the more hireable you are. Okay. Look, I have yoga, Pilates, anti-gravity, and stand-up paddleboard. But that took me about 15 years to do. Okay. Whereas a lot of newer yoga teachers, they would do, a yin yoga teacher training, and then a prenatal yoga teacher training, and then a yoga wheel teacher training, or anti-gravity, whatnot. Look, it's all good. And then sound healing, singing bowl, blah, blah, blah. But what you have learned so far in those trainings is just scratching the surface. You don't really know what you really enjoy teaching, what you're really passionate about. So what I would suggest to them is that going back to yoga, what does yoga really teach you? Okay, well, yoga teaches us to be focused, to stay focused, and then be really good at what you do. Now, it takes time. It won't happen overnight. Okay. And so if, vinyasa is your passion, then, be really good at it. Okay. Hatha yoga or yin yoga, just do one job very well. Okay. Well, will that limit my hireability? I don't think so. Because if you can deliver a really, really solid class, whichever it is, it makes you hireable. Okay. And also to expand from there, be a good listener. People tend to talk too much. And so be a very good listener, and work on your communication skills, and also be accountable. I've worked with a lot of teachers. I've talked to a lot of studio managers complaining how flaky yoga teachers are. Taking time off last minute. Oh, I have this wedding to go tomorrow. Okay. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. If you have a team like this, how are you going to run a business? How are you going to run a studio? Right? In the mentorship workshop, I often say to them, and I borrow that from JFK, ask not what the studio can do for you, ask what you can do for the studio, because it's a partnership. A lot of people think, but they should be doing the marketing. They should be, doing the shots and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't promote your classes at that particular studio, or you don't, because a lot of studios, they hire the teachers part-time. Okay. So you need to also promote your own classes. You need to promote your studio as well. Okay. Whether you do it as a full-time job or you do it as a side gig, because if your classes are unattended, they might cut that class. If that happens to everyone in the studio will close down. So there is no business. Okay. So, be a team player. Yeah.
I always think that that's a no-brainer, but it apparently isn't.
So it's really interesting because yoga teaches people to, to have, to not have an ego. But man, the amount of ego that I've seen in the yoga world, I mean, it's just astonishing. I'm not going to name names, but then, it is, if you want for a community to thrive, to succeed, you need to put yourself away and be selfless. But don't forget to look after yourself. But you have to be selfless. You need to, look after your students or the people that you work with /for, because otherwise there's no business. There's no teaching for you.
How do you look after yourself?
I make sure I eat well. I sleep well.
This is the PR answer coming out.
Oh, no, it is.
I'm just kidding.
No, it is. So I'm very fortunate to, you've been to my place. I live in a very, very natural environment, by the beach, by the ocean. And so I think in the last 3 or 4 years, especially over COVID, we are very fortunate to have someone to cook for us at home. And even before that, before we had our full-time helper, we were cooking more than the normal Hong Kong, population. And so now, like, home cooked food, even if it's deep fried, is still better than deep fried food outside. Sleep is super, super, super important.
How many hours do you get?
7 or 8.
Okay.
It's not a fixed number, but I make sure I go to bed very early. And I get up very early. I get up on average 5-ish.
Do you have like a sleep hygiene routine?
No, I mean, if I tell people, I'm not the best advisor on sleep because I do everything that most websites or sleep, doctors will tell you not to do. Oh, put away your devices, the blue light, like that actually helps. So I would normally put an iPad or like phone with a movie or YouTube video on, and then I would just lie down 5 minutes before 5 minutes. And then I'll be like, and then Adam will be like, put it away, go sleep. So, and also exercise. Look, exercise is super, super, super important. I used to tell people to do just yoga.
Okay.
And yoga is great. Yoga, is a good way to not just exercise, but also to live your life, to remind yourselves of, some moral values and all that. But yoga isn't everything.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm telling people not to do yoga, but it's actually, don't stop doing yoga, but do other sports.
Yeah.
So, and this applies to people, my students, who are crazy about yoga and don't really do sports. Okay. And for those who do a lot of exercise, but not enough yoga, I would say keep doing whatever you do, but stick a yoga class once a week. Yeah. Like, this is very, very, like eating well, sleeping well, exercise. These are the things that I do all the time.
Okay. Those are your non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables. Yeah. And I think when you reach my age, your own health will be more important than your personal, monetary wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that money isn't important, but then I think health for me is, becoming more and more important now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back a little bit to your kind of marketing background and starting your kind of yoga business.
Yep.
I've asked this to a couple of my other guests, but like I kind of see you as your own brand. Like, do you think that is important to get like a leg up in the industry, or do you kind of see it as like a little bit of a hindrance?
So I have the advantage of being a biological male in the yoga business because most teachers are female.
Yeah.
And so naturally people will remember who you are more easily.
Yeah.
Okay. And so yes, it is important to build your own brand because then you will have a story. Because look, everyone is teaching yoga nowadays, but what sets you apart is the story. Okay. And that's like one of the biggest tenets in marketing. And because Apple and Samsung, they're both selling phones, but then why does Apple have a cult-like following, whereas Samsung, they produce much better phones, but it's just, they're nice, but they're not Apple. This is what Apple users will say. And so it is important that you have your own story. And that story, in a lot of brands, they will have a kind of a doctored, cultivated message. But then for a personal brand, I think it is important that you have an authentic story to tell. Okay. So for me is to, and I keep telling this in why, like people ask me, why do I teach? Is then back in Beijing, there is this woman in her 50s, never really done yoga before, but she came to my class and she wasn't even planning to come to Beijing because her daughter had started her work in Beijing. So she came along and to look after her daughter. And then she did crow pose for the first time. So where you put your hands down and then knees up and then your feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And that smile, that was over 10 years now, that smile on her face, like for a 50-plus-year-old woman doing crow pose, that is quite astonishing. Someone who does very little exercise. And that confidence that basically kind of sparked in her face, in her heart, that's why I teach yoga. And it's not a fabricated story, it's a real story. And so I think it is important that you know that story, and that story will come. You can't make up that story. You can't speed up that story.
Yeah.
You need to be able to discern that story. Then you turn it into you call it PR machine, you call it like your own message. Okay, because if you look at IG nowadays, yoga IGs or whatnot, they're all like, oh, find your own peace, know yourself. I'll help you elevate your blah blah blah. Everyone is saying something like that. Find your inner peace. That is very typical lazy PR. Messages.
Yeah.
Because that actually carries nothing. It doesn't say anything about you. So if you really want to stand up as a brand, as a yoga teacher, whether you're male or female or somewhere in between, okay, you need to have a very clear story to tell.
Yeah.
And then basically max out that story and it has to be authentic, because if you're not authentic about your story, about your what you preach, people will find out sooner or later. So when I was a Lululemon ambassador for a very long time, and then I asked the community manager at the time, and then we already got to know each other very well. And then I asked her, but clearly, I'm not the only yoga teacher in town, but why do you guys love working with me? Right? I'm not trying to fish for compliments. And then I just wanted to know why. What did I do right? Or what could I have done more, right? And then she said, Victor, you're a very authentic person. Oh, thank you. But then what she was trying to say was, she's worked with instructors or yoga teachers. When they teach, they're like this, superstar. They have this flair of authenticity. And then they tell people to live up to their dreams and blah, blah, blah. But off stage, she said, they can be the nastiest people, meanest people, bad-mouthing people in the world. So that's why they don't get to become an ambassador. Yeah, I don't know if that was your case, Alvi, but that was for me.
Well, we'll tell my story another time.
Yeah.
No, I think I would have to agree with her, actually. We'll maybe touch upon this a little bit later, but your teaching style is... you're very curious, I think, and then that translates into who you are as a person. And obviously, I know you in both realms, but quite often I might know an instructor more personally, and then when they teach, they are a completely different character, which is very interesting, actually. Did you never think to adopt a Sasha Fierce?
No, I mean, when I teach, I was often told that when I teach and when I'm out drinking, having dinner, I'm exactly the same person.
You are exactly the same, yeah.
Because I don't feel the need to, and I don't actually, to be honest, I don't even know how. I don't feel the need to create another persona. To be more or less bitchy or funny. Or authentic. If I don't think this is right, I'll tell you outright. Yeah. If I think this is great, I will tell you in your face as well. But obviously, I would do it as in as encouraging manner as I can, because people come here to learn, and if if you kind of like, diminish that kind of spark in them, it will stop. We all had that teacher in high school. Let's say you were very curious, you were very passionate about chemistry, but the teacher was an a-hole, and then you stop liking that class. And I don't want to be that teacher. Different people have different ways to learn. And so as an educator, as a teacher, I need to learn how to teach different people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my job to make you understand. Yeah.
What have you learned over the years?
To be humble. And because I'm naturally not a humble person. Because again, going back to Beijing, in fact, before going to Beijing, my boss who sent me to, her name is Joanna Gunn. I'm forever grateful to her because she is the one who believed in me, who sent me to Beijing, because without Beijing, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have met Adam, blah, blah, blah. And she was the one who signed off my 6-week sabbatical to learn yoga in India while I was at the job. And so, but then right before, I think it was the last night for me in the Hong Kong office, she said, Victor, humility goes a long way. I was like, what do you mean by that? Am I not a humble person? That's right. So at first, of course, I didn't quite understand. But then, the more people you meet at your job and in a wider kind of circle, you just learn.
Yeah.
You learn not to be the loudest person. Even though I can be very loud, even though on stage, I need to be loud, I need to be heard. But there's a way to do it in a humble way, because there's so much knowledge to be learned. Yeah. And I really resist a lot. Some people call me master, some people call me guru. I said, please don't, because that is the death of learning. That is the death of curiosity. Yeah. So humility is really, really important. Even there is something to be learned from your student.
Exactly.
And my teacher at the teacher training, she's such a wise woman. She said, you will learn more from your students than your students will learn from you. And at the training, I was like, you must be joking. And now I was like, wow, such wisdom.
Yeah. It's so important to, as a teacher, to still be curious and to still learn, right? Yeah. We have known each other for a number of years. We have, I think, over the years worked out a few times together. I don't really remember the settings, or to be honest with you. Did we do a CrossFit class together? Probably.
Maybe.
Something like that, right?
When I was feeling suicidal, yes.
Yeah. So, obviously, when you move, you sweat a lot.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about each other, especially in a group setting, a group class setting. What have you learned about me?
You. Okay, so I think Avi
over the years.
Yeah. Okay.
So not don't count this morning.
Okay. I think Avi is a very slow to heat up person. It takes him some time to really open up. But once you open up, you are quite unreserved. And you take movement and sweating very seriously. And yeah, I think, it takes you some time to open up. And I think you are more of a listener than a talker. And that's why when you told me about this project, I was like, wow, that's very interesting for Avi to do this. How correct I am.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah. Yeah. But now I actually, I think over the last few years, I've definitely learned to love to communicate. I've learned that's obviously a skill that we're all kind of working on, right? But yeah, any opportunity to chat now, I'm open. So this morning I did your vinyasa flow.
Yep.
It's not really what I was expecting when you invited me to your class. But
What were you expecting?
I mean, I should know better because I know your classes. I know that they are work.
Yep.
There is definitely sweat involved. So even when I invited you to teach the Lululemon class the other week, it was full of sweat, and the manager was like, "I said no sweat." But yeah, no, I was not expecting to be moving as much as we did today. But I was definitely, again, to go back. We've moved together quite often, and I find that even though you are super experienced, you move every day, like you said, you're still approach everything with curiosity, which is something that I think everyone should, an approach that everyone should have.
I definitely agree because, and I think that would. No, now we're kind of like in our midlife, but not crisis yet.
But we don't look it, so that's fine.
I know. Well, but that's, I think, thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
And I really, okay, so first of all, genes are really important.
Amen.
So I'm not going to just say that, okay, well, exercise and yoga alone will give me this look. But I inherited my mother's genes, not my dad's, thankfully. So me and my sister just look much younger than our real age. But also not having children, that helps. And doing exercise a lot really, really helps. Yoga, super, super helpful. And specifically inversions.
Okay.
So going upside down. That's why we did that this morning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're famous for them.
Yeah, I love it. And because I've been obsessed with going upside down for 20 years now. And like headstand, handstand, or forearm balance, whatnot. Look, I'm not the best handstander. I know that. And I'm not the best headstander, if there's such a thing. But the reason why I love going upside down is that, and in fact, rewind a little bit, because when I learned yoga as a yoga teacher trainee, I said, a headstand can help you rejuvenate, give you a youthful look, and blah, 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 help you, help the blood to flow back into the heart naturally, thanks to gravity. And I thought that was just, textbook speaking, selling people programs and why you should do headstand. And now, after 20 years of doing headstand, I can honestly say that it actually did help my youthful look, because you do get more blood flowing into your heart. So that that relaxes your heart. You get more blood going into your brain and your face. So we all know that oxygenated blood is good for all muscles. So, then that naturally gives you a more blushed complexion, okay? And on a more kind of like mental and psychological level, why I love doing inversions and teaching people do inversions is that it helps them actually know more about themselves. Because one of the things that people don't want to do it is that they worry about falling down.
Sure, yeah.
So I love tackling that, with every single one of my student or teacher trainee, because you are afraid of that. That's more the reason why you should do it. And I think it was Winston Churchill who famously said, and please correct me if I was wrong, like a life lived in fear is half lived. So you can't always live in fear.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, yes, you fall down. So what? You fall down all the time. Actually, we fell down all the time when we were kids, when we were learning how to walk. But that never stopped us from standing back on our own feet too. And that would never stop our parents from, making us walk on our feet, because that's the right thing to do. Yeah. We're designed to walk on our feet. We're not designed to stand on our head. So, but then that's more the reason why we should learn it. Okay. And if you fall down, know why you fell down and learn how to do it better. And that's actually the mindset That is the real yoga.
Yeah.
This one on, standing on the head, the physical standing of the head, it's a movement. But then that mindset, if you can bring that mindset outside of the classroom, outside of the yoga studio, that's yoga.
Yeah.
That's real yoga. We often say that, real yoga takes place outside of your yoga mat, not on the yoga mat. Yeah.
That famous Instagram yoga quote.
Yes.
Do you feel like you learn something new about yourself even when you teach?
Yes. I learned how to be more patient, be more communicative.
Yeah.
And you cannot assume all the time. You can't make assumptions because at an earlier stage of my yoga teaching, and I would be quite not dismissive, but then I wouldn't just say, okay, you don't have time for yoga, you're just lazy. Okay, or make time. And now in my 40s, most of my friends are parents, and I mean, children are just taking so much time. I'm glad I'm not a parent. When you have a full-time job, whether you have a helper at home or not, when you have a child at home, that's another full-time job. So now I've learned to be more understanding, more forgiving, and learn how to give them the tools to empower them, to make them believe that you can still do it, okay? But rather than blaming them for not doing it. And, different people understand, they come to a yoga class at different stages of their life, have different, not whether they can do a handstand or not, but just different ways of understanding their body. So I'm not sure if you've heard of this yoga master. He's dead already. His name is Iyengar. So I attended his conference a long time ago when he was still alive. And he said at the conference, if you can't explain to a student in one way, that's your problem. 2 ways, the students still don't understand, that's your problem. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ways, that is still your problem. But if on the 10th trial, if they still don't understand, that's their problem. So as a teacher, whatever you teach, whether it's maths or chemistry or English or Chinese or yoga, family form workout, we need to learn how to communicate to different people and the other day, there was actually a first in my life. I had a deaf person coming to my class. And so, I mean, obviously I don't speak sign language. And I've learned, from my career teaching in different countries and languages, I don't need to learn how to speak your language. But if you learn how to say, hello, nice to meet you, in the local language, or thank you, they will be like, So I learned on YouTube, how do you say nice, let me think, nice to meet you. So this is meet, like two people meeting. And then I did that to her before the class started. She just, opened up the whole, she just opened up completely. So obviously she came to my handstand class.
Yeah.
So how do I teach handstand? Even if I speak sign language, I need my hands, right?
Yeah.
So I asked the office to prepare a whiteboard. So normally I don't write things down.
Yeah.
So I wrote down the key points and then, she can see it and all that. So, learn different ways to communicate with different people. There's always a way to get your point across.
Yeah. And to connect, right? Yeah. Well, we're nearing the end. And what I like to do near the end is just shoot you a quick fire lightning round of questions. So just don't think too much, just straight away, just answer. For this first one, other than what you teach, what is your go-to sweat? Stand-up paddleboard. Okay, nice. Yeah. Yes, I like that. You do that every day or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to.
Nice.
Yeah, when
Nice.
the weather allows, I will do it every day.
I've seen you actually when the weather hasn't allowed.
Yeah, that's when
Sometimes.
I got a call from my mom saying, "Are you still paddling in typhoon
Yeah.
number 3?" I said, "Yes." Yeah.
All right. What's your go-to treat meal? We don't say cheat because we're not cheaters.
Every meal is a treat / cheat meal to me, to be honest.
Okay.
But okay, French fries.
Oh yeah, same.
Yes.
Yeah. Amen to that. What is your go-to self-care ritual?
A massage and a facial.
A full body massage? Are you like a Thai massage kind of person? A foot massage? Oil
Massage.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think foot massage is a waste of time. Why not do the whole body?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you can like chat to people.
Oh, don't talk to me when I'm having massage.
Okay.
Just keep your mouth shut. Work on my body.
What is your go-to morning routine?
Coffee.
What
Every
is-
single coffee. In
what
a
is-
mocha pot.
What is your go-to coffee order?
I don't order coffee outside very often.
Okay.
But actually, okay, I correct myself. Dirty.
Sorry?
Dirty.
What's that?
So it's
I'm not a coffee aficionado. Sorry.
So it's a hot shot or double shot of espresso,
Okay.
and then you pour cold milk on the side so that it looks a little bit marbled and dirty. That's why it's called dirty.
Yes.
So you got the cold, kind of like coffee flavored milk on the top,
Okay.
and then the warm espresso at the bottom.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. What is your go-to stress reliever?
Stand-up paddleboard.
Oh, okay.
Or really just being out in the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very healing.
Mm-hmm.
Go to weekend activity.
Stand-up paddleboard. Also hiking with my dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which hike do you like the best in Hong Kong?
Just wherever that's close, because we live in Saigon now. So
Just everywhere.
Everywhere.
Is
Yeah. So if I'm taking the dog, then it will have to be High Junk,
Yeah.
High Junk Peak, or to Clearwater Bay. We used to go to like Mackley Holes a bit more.
Yeah.
So I love Mackley Holes stages 3 and 4, where you get to the Hampton, and then
Oh yes.
that's just
Yeah,
beautiful,
it is beautiful.
And you can spend the whole day there on the beach. I love it there.
Go to music playlist.
You mean my own playlist or like?
Don't think. Just
Oh, okay. Anything. Oh God, such a gay playlist. Anything with Madonna, Kylie / Whitney / Britney.
share the link with me later. Go to book.
Start with Why.
Okay.
Yeah. By Simon Sinek. Yeah. It's have you read that? Have you heard of
No,
that
I
book?
haven't, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yes. So it just really he explains that when you do marketing or when you do anything at all, most companies or people will tell you what they sell.
Yeah.
Will tell you these are great products. They're selling a product, but businesses that are very, very successful and have a cult-like following, they sell an idea, like Apple. Because when you use Apple products, I think not so much now because they've gone very, very commercial and quite mass. But then people who use Apple will still have the image or the impression that they are quite creative and slightly rebellious. And so that goes to my trainings. Why do I teach people going upside down? Not because the upside down itself, but because why I want to get people to go upside down. Or why you should be teaching yoga.
Yeah.
Not the poses, not the down dog, not the tree pose, but why you teach. Yeah. So that's a very good book.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So in the nearer future, I will be teaching a teacher training.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2025.
Okay.
With Yoga Room. So it's a 200-hour teacher training. I've been teaching that teacher training for 7 times already. So, it's empowered. So I'll be teaching this teacher training called Empowered Flow, which is what I teach in most of my classes. So it's about, traditional yoga poses and then some body conditioning, things, movements that will help you go upside down. And why do I love getting people upside down? I just said it earlier.
Yeah.
Conquer your fear or know your fear, blah, blah, blah. And then so I'll be teaching that with Yoga Room. I'm also in the process of revamping the teacher training a little bit to make it more relevant, more modern. And there are 3 things that I wanted to talk about and never really got into the training. So it would be quite a new way of doing the training. And then for the longer, months ahead, it will be a move to Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that, so.
Don't be sad. So it will be in July, sometime mid-2025.
Okay.
So moving to Singapore. So it's a new adventure for me, for our family, and for our pets as well. So really looking forward to, teaching yoga, sharing, I guess what I understand. I wouldn't say my philosophy of fitness, but then things that I've learned so far that has helped me as a person, and hopefully I can share that in Singapore and maybe even, in a bigger territory like Southeast Asia. Back in Hong Kong, I'm not, Hong Kong and Singapore is just a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, hoping to turn my business and teaching more regional again, because that's what I actually did before COVID.
Yeah.
And then COVID, I got quite comfortable living out in Clearwater Bay. And now I guess, okay, well, I have to, get out there again.
It's about time.
It's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on your socials?
Yes. So my Instagram, Victor Chau Yoga, and that's my main source of Instagram for now, for social media. And then also I'm planning to do more things online. So I will restart my website and then also some YouTube videos as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your YouTube channel?
I'll let you know when I have it.
Okay, we'll share the link. We'll share the link. Victor Chau, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me, Avi.
Thank you for joining us on Move, Sweat, Discover. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.